Hey, what's up, guys? Kevin Yates here of kevinyates.org, and I help fitness enthusiasts and recreational athletes overcome their aches, pains, and injuries when doctors, chiropractic treatments, and physical therapy have failed to resolve them. So today I want to share with you kind of 3 things that you can do to eliminate knee pain when squatting. So I know, a lot of you guys out there have trouble with movements like squatting, which affects your ability to run, to lift, to jump, to do the things that you want to be doing, playing sports and maintaining this active lifestyle that we love to do. But it's very difficult when, particularly like when squatting, because that's like everything. Squatting has to do with lifting and running and doing the things that we do. So when you have knee pain when you're squatting, then a lot of times what happens is when nothing works, we end up feeling like we can't squat anymore, that, squatting is bad for your knees, or that you have bad knees, or that it's just the fact that, you're getting a little bit older. So now you have to avoid bending down, squatting down, and, any of these activities that involve that, which is just honestly a bunch of bullshit. It's not true. In reality, here's the thing that, a lot of times you're not told this by your doctor. You're not told this, by your chiropractor, your physical therapist. And it's this. It's that the movements that we perform aren't the reason why we have pain. The movements aren't causing us pain. The problem is it's what our bodies are conditioned for. And it really has to do with a lot of, our own lifestyle choices, how we move our bodies, how we're training our bodies, what we're conditioning and preparing our bodies for. So if we understand how to condition these bodies of ours to move properly, then, these movement patterns and squatting and bending and doing these things that we do will not cause pain and injuries. All right. So here's the thing we want to look at when you're squatting. Okay. There's 3 things I'll share with you here today. So the first is you have to assess your range of motion. Okay. So if you don't have a good amount or an optimum amount of range of motion in particular 3 areas, your hips, your knees, and your ankles, then you're going to have trouble squatting. And here's the thing. When we don't have the range of motion that we need, and we try to force our bodies to move where they don't have the range there, then what happens is that the other areas of your body have to overcompensate. So for example, if you've got a restricted ankle joint and your ankle's not able to move, and you come down into a squat and your ankle can't move, it doesn't have the range of motion you need to get down into a squat, your body's going to be forced to make that up. And you're going to have to make that up like at the knee and maybe at the hip, or one or both of them. Okay. So that's what starts to happen. So then, we can have a restriction at the ankle that ends up causing knee pain, not because there's anything wrong with the knee and not because a squat is bad for us, but because we have a restricted ankle joint. Okay. And it can happen at any of these joints. So first thing is to make sure that you assess your range of motion and assess it on both sides, right? It's not just like we just look at one side of the body. We've got to assess both of them. And if there's a big deficit in one joint versus the other, or if you have multiple, joints that move and joints that don't move nearly as well or as much, then it's important to address those deficits. So you got to address the mobility deficits first and foremost. Without mobility, then nothing else matters, right? It's not about building strength. It's not about, doing freaking core exercises and stability shit and all this stuff. It will not work. So we got to address the mobility first. So then that's number 1. Then the second thing is we have to look at posture, right? In particular, maintaining posture. So there's 2 things. 1, when you get into your squat, can you get yourself set up in the right position, right? So posture is basically, where we begin and where we end movement from, right? So that's what we're trying to do. So we want to set up the movement in the squat, make sure you're getting set up in the right position, that you're maintaining that position while you're moving, right? And that you end in the right position, basically. So what we're looking at with posture is, everything from your head, because your head affects where everything else goes. If you can't line your head up right, then the rest of your body's got to kind of compensate and adjust itself for wherever your head is, okay? So it's the head, it's like the shoulders, it's the trunk, the upper body, it's the hips, right? These are all important. We have to be able to line these up and maintain really good posture throughout that movement. Because again, if we don't, we start to compensate during movement patterns and it just throws everything off. And that's where a lot of things like, pain, particularly knee pain, start to happen from. It throws it off, and then imbalances are created within the movement. And if you follow the videos I do, I'm all the time harping about the importance of addressing imbalances in the body. Okay, so again, it's not the movement. Squats are not bad for your knees. I mean, you got to be able to squat, because if you can't, I don't give a shit if you don't perform a squat with a barbell on your back. But think about this. How are you going to get up and down from a chair if you can't squat? How do you get in and out of bed if you can't squat? How do you freaking get up and on and off the toilet if you can't squat? You have to be able to squat. We need to bend down. We need to, sometimes bend down and stand back up. I mean, these are things that we really need to be able to squat for. So it's not just, like it's only important in the gym. It's a carryover movement into our everyday lives. Okay, so we've talked about range of motion. We've talked about posture. And then the final thing is addressing like stability deficits. Okay, so a lot of times we have deficits in stability, meaning that our bodies are just not able to stabilize the joints. They're not able to stabilize certain segments of our body while we're moving, particularly in squat patterns. Okay, so when we look at stability, now we're looking at what does the stability look like with the trunk. What does it look like? So when you squat, is your trunk leaning from one side to the other? Does it twist a little bit? Is there a rotation in there? Because this kind of stuff will throw everything off. And a lot of times, like, even if we're doing things with body weight, we like squat up and down all the time with body weight's one thing. But if we introduce a load, so we start putting like medicine balls or sandbags or barbells, dumbbells, things like that, and we start loading it, a lot of times you'll see that load can create certain, it can affect your stability, right? So if you don't have the ability to stabilize yourself in that, it throws everything off, right? We put a load in there and all of a sudden, whoa, I can't stabilize my body. Things start going off, and that's what starts the whole pain and injury cycle, okay? So again, it's not the movement, right? What we need to do is address the stability component, right? The muscles of our body that are supposed to work as stabilizers. And this is what happens with a lot of people, especially with, athletes, recreational athletes, fitness enthusiasts who are training all the time, who become very strong with like the prime movers, we call them, like the big muscles, right, that kind of move the body. But what happens is they become so strong and developed there and conditioned in those muscles, the stabilizing muscles of their bodies are completely neglected and deconditioned and weak, and they don't function well. And this is why they end up coming down with pain and injuries. Those are big imbalances to have. So we look at things like the trunk we talked about. We look at things like the hips. Are the hips shifting from one side to the other? What happens with the knees, right? What do your knees do when you squat? Do they buckle in a little bit when you start to squat down? And these are things that if you're not aware of them, you need to become aware of, okay? What do your feet and ankles do? Are your ankles collapsing in? Are your feet turning out? Is one foot way out of position or look a lot different in alignment than the other foot? These are all things we need to assess and address, okay? So those really are the three things. And going back to posture, I think I forgot to say it, but it's really about, understanding too that sometimes if we're not maintaining proper posture, it can be because we don't have the ability to get in the right position and maintain it, or sometimes it's just an awareness thing. And this is what I was just talking about, that if we're not aware of things that are going on, then we can't change them. because we can't change what we're not aware of, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of being aware of where your posture is at. Sometimes we think we're in the right position because we've become so adapted to having poor posture or inefficient posture, and it feels normal after a while. So we think that we're lined up right, but in reality, if we could see it or someone pointed it out to us, then it would be a whole different ballgame. And sometimes it's just a matter of that. Being able to have it pointed out to, have a coach or somebody there who can tell you, hey, you need to line up better here. Hey, you need your chest up taller. Hey, your shoulders aren't back enough, or your trunk's not up, or your hips are doing this. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just an awareness that we can then correct it right there. But you have to understand, is it a lack of awareness that you have, or is it an inability to maintain proper posture? Okay. So those are the three things: the range of motion to assess, particularly hips, knees, and ankles, and on both sides. The other one we just talked about was posture, and then finally stability deficits. Okay. So I'm telling you, if you've got anything going on in either of these areas or all of them, this is going to be the key for you. If you fix these areas, if you address what's going on, you identify it and address it, you will be surprised at how fast and how easy it is to eliminate knee pain, or at least greatly reduce it to the point where you can start performing squatting and get back to doing the activities and movements that you like to do pain-free. All right, so hopefully that helped you out. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below, type them in, let me know. And until next time, take care of yourself, and I'll be back and talk to you soon.